Thursday night harness racing heads to Cambridge tonight. Craig Thompson. Couple of rarities here. There's a 16-horse trotting field. Couple of ballots in there, but you don't often see those sort of numbers stacking up at Cambridge. And I've got a really weird stat for you later on about the standing start pacing race. But first, I've got to ask you about a horse that Big Fish, Little Fish loves. Zeeberg, race 7, off a huge handicap, 45 metres in that capacity field we mentioned. But Craig, I love backing Zeeberg around Cambridge.
I think you win. I think it's probably the best bet of the night, Michael. 270. I think that's a pretty good price for him tonight. He is a left-handed specialist. He's gone his best races there. And I just think he's more comfortable this way around. And Zach gets on so well with him. So I'm not really overly worried about the handicap, Michael. Maybe if it was 2,200, I would be. But the 2,700 metres gives him a chance to get into the race. And, he ran home in 56 seconds behind Temporale last week in a really good field. I mean, he beat Paramount King home. He'd be pretty short if he'd lined up in this race, Michael. So to answer your question, I thought the 270 was a really fair price and probably one of the bets of the night.
Yeah, he can be a bit nervy early. So being at the back, he probably would settle no worse than he would off 20-metre handicap. So I think he'll just attach himself to the back of the field, Zach, and launch with a lap to go. Most of these horses are 3:33 horses who come home in 61 or 60 seconds. He's probably a 3:28 horse who can come home in 56, as you said. So I think he'll win tonight. Here's that weird stat for you. Race 8 tonight, right? It's the feature handicap pace. And it all sounds good because I'm seeing that Ahmed Gigolo's the favourite, Craig, and it's a South Island horse. And it would have been from a standing start. Not only has it not been from a standing start, remarkably, of the 11 starters, only 2 have won from a standing start. And over half the field, Craig, has never been from behind the tapes. Now, you might expect that if it was a 3-year-old race, not that we have standing start 3-year-old races. But I can't remember a field in this grade, Craig, where 11 horses are lining up. And some of these horses have been around a long time. And over half of them have never seen the standing start tapes, including the South Island trained favourite. That's very unusual.
Very unusual. A few of these, Michael, have come out of maidens and into 1 wins, and you don't get a lot of standing start races until you get up in the grades to the 2 to 3 win mark. So likes of Lady Cherokee, High Point and Sarandon, they've all won 2 of their last 3 starts. So they've come up the grades quickly, hence they've never been from a standing start. But yeah, the back marker, Parker, he's one of the 2 that has won a race, and he's been floating around in this grade for quite some time. You know he'll get it right. But it's a pretty tough ask off 35. Thought it was a really tricky race. I think probably the best version of I'm a Gigolo with a safe beginning would probably win. Would I take $2.80? Absolutely not. So you've got to find some value outside that. And I did think Parker's racing pretty well. So he was, around 650? I think he's an each-way chance.
Yeah, Parker and Young Conqueror, by the way, are the 2 horses who have won from the standing start, but they're both off the back mark, and they've only won about 1 in 10 from a standing start. Other horse I want to ask you about, Craig, is a horse who I don't think anybody trusts, but the motor's there and he's probably in the right race. That's Jack Ryan in race 6. Gets very funny, very steppy, close to the line, but I think they'll go slower at Cambridge tonight than the races he's been racing.
I thought he was the second best bet of the night, Michael. So that's good to see. Zeeberg on to Jack Ryan. I think a really nice multi. One's 290, one's 270. So you're getting around 8 to 1 for a double up. And I think Jack Ryan, if you watched the race last week, he actually knuckled over at the top of the lane. I was actually at the Lone Star on the balcony at the point where he knuckled over.
Well, he saw you, Big Fish, and he got a shot.
He did. He saw me and he got scared, Michael. But he was actually travelling pretty well at that time. Only him and Kango was going any good at that stage. I think if he didn't win the race, he would have definitely run second. So he's been beaten by Mimia Coco. Christians Have Time in some pretty good 238 races, Michael. This is his race. I think Alicia will get on well with him. It's a penalty-free race for him. So I thought 270, 290, pretty good.
Okay. So we like a couple of the same horses. What else do you like at Cambridge tonight? Where, by the way, owners aren't allowed on track again. They're allowed owners might be allowed on track, but no public's allowed on track. Of course, harness racing, just taking things quietly till we have a change of government restrictions.
One later on, I thought had not a lot of luck from some pretty awkward draws and racing really well, Michael, was Rough and Ready. He's coming out of that race last week where Mimio Coco won and they went 239. I got him 240 and he drew midfield. I thought barrier 2, dropping back from Auckland to Cambridge on a track where he's won both of his races here. I thought he looked a really nice bet. So Todd Mitchell takes the drive for Anna Donnelly. I thought Rough and Ready looked a good bet later in the program.
Okay, anything else grabbed your attention at slightly longer odds? Because, of course, we know what the odds are going to be now, or have the bookies more or less framed them up right?
I think they framed them up pretty well. The best value on the day, I thought, was a horse I haven't backed probably in its entire career, as a horse called Needham Punter. I thought was really, really good the other day. Ended up running 4th behind Down the Hatch at Cambridge. It's drawn 1 the second row, and the one that it follows out, I've mapped to probably be, if not in front, but in the trail. So at worst 3, the fence, possibly the trailer, and it's $8.50. An Eden Punter, race number 5 for the value.
Yeah, anybody looking for value for me? I like Jack and Lucas for a place. I think if Cassius can hold the trail, Jack and Lucas might end up 3 deep on the markers, and trial good enough last week at Pukekohe. Craig, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about what's a huge night at Addington, open class paces and open class trotters. Join us then on HRNZ.co.nz.